Okay, welcome to my talk, Malicious Fungible Tokens. This is the last talk of the day. We will try to take this as a relaxed moment. We'll have a good time together. If you have any question, and we can discuss anything at the end. If you want to connect later to discuss any specific topic, I'm super happy to do so. My name is Mauro Eldritch. I'm an Uruguayan Argentinian hacker. I spoke at different events around the world, including DEFCON, DEF Siberia, Easy Council Hacker Halted, and some others. I'm here today representing Bitso Quetzal team, which is Latin America's first Web3 crypto-focused threat research group. We are focused specifically on APTs and state-sponsored threats that target the crypto ecosystem. And sometimes we engage in researching financial threats, organized cybercrime, like, banking Trojans, like Grandorero, Janolero, and most of those families that target Latin America fintech. And you can find more about us at bitso.com. This talk is basically an experiment. This is what happens when you let a shower thought go too far and become a technical talk. What I'm going to show today is how to use NFTs as immortal or persistent C2 servers to relay malicious commands to a custom malware. Obviously, we won't damage anything for real. Everything is coded inside a lab. I won't sell you any NFT, but if you stay up to the end of the talk, I'm going to share a financial secret that those big fish at Washington don't want you to know. But no, I won't sell you anything. This talk, in case you're interested in wacky C2 servers, crazy malware development, is the spiritual successor of another talk, actually two talks, that my partner Luis Ramirez and I did at DEFCON that was called Everything is a C2 if you are brave enough, where we basically used Spotify, YouTube, Discord, Slack, World of Warcraft, Wikipedia as C2 servers, and it was super funny. Also, we used, I think, also Cube, which is like a Counter-Strike knockoff, a super cheap knockoff, and we had a blast of a time just shooting at each other and also pounding at each other. So if you want to see something absolutely crazy, I recommend that talk. So it's a little bit dangerous to go out alone. So for this talk, I onboarded my dog because every NFT needs a super cute looking face, and I'm clearly not that target. So he will be our guest threat actor for this talk. You will see him a lot of time on the slides. This talk will be divided into two chapters. The first one where we'll explain the basic concepts. I know that some of you might not know what a C2 is. That's fine. Some of you might not know what an NFT is or what the centralized methods for storing metadata exist. So we will discuss them in plain and simple terms. And then we will go to the second chapter where we'll conduct the actual experiment. So, having said this, we'll start with the very first chapter. We'll explain everything from scratch. Feel free to take note of anything you don't quite understand or you want me to go deeper, and we'll explain. Let's start with NFTs, not the kind of the cute NFTs I'm used to like. NFTs are non-fungible tokens, which are basically defined by two ERCs on the 2017 and 18. And aside from the NFT economics, values, whatever that we are not interested in, we are not going to talk about that here. There are two main classifications for NFTs. Those that are fully on-chain, where you do everything on-chain, you commit everything to the blockchain. You commit the smart contract, the metadata, and everything inside that chunk of data to the blockchain. Obviously, that chunk of data tends to be huge, so you have to pay higher gas fees. Gas fees are, think of them as transaction payments. You have to pay a transaction fee to publish something, to push something to the blockchain. Obviously, since they are on the blockchain, they are permanent. Then we have a cheap alternative, which is the most popular one today, which are off-chain assets. The basic information is the smart contract is submitted, obviously, to the blockchain, but then all the big chunks of data, the metadata, the traits, the description, whatever you have, are not stored on the blockchain. They are stored somewhere else. If you are lucky enough, that data will be stored on the centralized servers, which are resilient to takedown, are not permanent, but are resilient. They are resistant to takedown. Since you are using smaller chunks of data here, obviously you will pay lower gas fees. That's why you have super cheap NFTs on certain markets and others that are super expensive to pay if you compare. Again, that's not the point of the talk. What are command and control servers? It's the infrastructure that a threat actor and adversary uses to send and receive commands with malware, in plain and simple terms. You're a malware, you want to call home and say, okay, hey, I'm awake. Then the C2 server receives your I'm awake message and say, okay, where are you running? I'm running on, say, an ESXi Bingware server. Then the malware will receive specific instructions or specific modules to be used on ESXi Bingware servers. Basically, it's the home for the malware where he can phone back and get instructions. But classic adversary infrastructure have some, let's say, trade-offs. You have limited durability because you will have to use a VPS. You won't use your home computer as a C2 server, I suppose. And then, every time that you need the infrastructure, you are relying on a provider, a VPS provider, a Lambda provider, a domain registrar, whatever, which can receive abuse complaints and can take down your infrastructure a piece at a time or entirely. Also, you can be blacklisted by SOCs or security providers. This is a huge problem because you won't just be blocked by Fortinet and you will say, okay, Fortinet just got me. No, Fortinet will use that information to be broadcasted to all of their clients. And then all of Fortinet clients will block you back. The last point, which is the most, even if it doesn't seem like that, it's one of the most dangerous ones because it can not only disrupt an operation, but also send you to jail straight, are when your adversary infrastructure is messed with by hunters. A threat hunter discovers your C2 server, starts playing with it, and starts discovering endpoints, starts profiling, starts finding what we can say like DNA samples. For example, you use this favicon, and then searches for that favicon on Shodan, and gets the rest of your infrastructure around the world. So that's another thing that can happen. Those are the trade-offs of classic command and control servers. But you will see, if you look at Shodan or on any threat intel feed, thousands of these guys running everywhere, every hour, at every place in the world. And then one day I had this malicious shower thought, and I was thinking that blockchain assets tend to be permanent. You can not take them down, you can just flag an abuse report for them, but what's stored on the blockchain remains on the blockchain. NFTs are obviously blockchain-backed assets, and they have extra information. You have media, which can be an image, a video, an audio, whatever you want. You have the low-hanging fruit, the names, the descriptions, and traits, which are special fields. So I was a little bit tired of seeing those ugly monkeys, ugly CryptoPunks, ugly pixels, and I say, why don't we mint something that is actually useful and that actually has something good to show? So I decided to go to OpenSea. OpenSea is the most popular NFTs market, and it's obviously whitelisted by most, if not all, of Web3 companies. And all traffic used here will impact OpenSea's API and nothing else. You won't see traffic going to those suspicious .tech, .club domains, .education, .africa. No, you will see all the traffic going to OpenSea. Sadly, OpenSea works in an off-chain manner, meaning that our assets are not stored on the blockchain. And this is actually something good. To make metadata resilient, OpenSea uses three kinds of technologies. Arweave works by paying a fee. You pay a higher fee, an initial high fee, and all metadata is submitted to a blockchain. So basically it's like having an on-chain asset. You have interplanetary file system, IPFS, which works like a one-way Gluster-FS. I don't know that most of you haven't heard of Gluster, so I'm going to explain. It works like any other data duplication, data replication schema. You have a node where something happens, and whatever happens to that node, it's broadcasted to the rest of the node, which say, okay, there's a change here. I'm going to apply that change on my local file system. If another node deletes a file, the rest of the nodes delete the file. If you modify something, it will be modified across all nodes. Why I'm saying that this is a one-way cluster? Because on IPFS you can submit a file, but you cannot just delete it. You can send an on-pin request. Think of a blackboard or a corkboard where you put different post-its and pin them. Now you're unpinning something on your board, and you're requesting your neighbor in, I don't know, Arkansas, to unpin the same post-it on his board. This brings two problems. So you do not control all the nodes. So some nodes might just ignore you and say, no, I'm not going to take that down. And some other will say, yeah, I will take it down. Not today. I'll put it in a line. And then when a certain condition is met, I will delete it. A garbage collector will delete it. That condition, I spoke with different IPFS providers, and they told me this can be if we reach a certain threshold on size regarding garbage, the garbage collector will come and will delete them. Some others tell me, yeah, you have to wait certain amount of time. Others tell me, yeah, we still have to wait for a human revision to see if we have to delete this. On average, this takedown process takes between 6 hours to an entire month. So you can really rely on IPFS. Now you might ask me, Mauro, why will someone do not honor an IPFS unpin request? Here's where Filecoin also enters the chat. Filecoin is a scheme where you are rewarded with a crypto asset called Filecoin by hosting files. Think of, do you remember when you downloaded with BitTorrent? And I'm not a piracy officer, so you can tell me. If you ever used BitTorrent, you will see that you were seeding, and most people just downloaded things, deleted the file, and did not seed back. So you were always downloaded at 7 kbs per second, and other people were just, downloading and deleting. Filecoin rewards you by keeping a file and seeding it to the rest of the decentralized nodes. Here's the thing. We have a takedown notice. All of us, we have a file. The administrator says, okay, delete that file. All of you comply, and delete the file. And I decide to do not honor the request. Now there's a supply and demand problem. A lot of people will want the file. All of you do not have it, and I have it. So I am the only sole vendor which can monopolize that thing until somebody else starts his own IPFS and uploads the file. That's one of the legit reasons why somebody might want to keep an asset even after it was asked to be taken down. And then another interesting thing on OpenSea is that the file processing is quite clunky. Images are converted to another format, but both the original file and the converted file are decentralized. So I have access to both of them. And we will see why this is important. So the obvious question here is, Mauro, why not go fully on-chain? That will be the easy route. And that's exactly why we are not doing that. Going full chain is something that we tried, and we achieved it in 5 minutes. So that there wasn't the need for a talk for that. You just submit it to the blockchain and done. Also, that will be really similar to another concept studied by Guardio Labs, which is called ether hiding, where people hid malicious code snippets for really popular stealer families on the Binance Smart Chain. Nothing less than Binance. So, having explained the basic concepts, why this, why not, what are we going to discuss, let's start doing this experiment. What we need obviously the malicious token with the malicious instructions, a custom malware that can read OpenSea's API and request the data, and a custom exfiltration server to send whatever we stole from the infected machine. So I can help you with the first point. Folks, meet the Golden Locker ransomware group. Every single one of these is an NFT. Every single one of these tries to abuse a specific feature at OpenSea. And we will get them in detail next.
This is our custom malware on the left, which is written in Ruby. It will just query the OpenSea's API. All traffic goes to OpenSea and then to the exfiltration server on the right. This is just a demo, so a lot of these features listed here, like wiping the file system, encrypting the file system, opening a reverse shell, are actually not implemented. They will just say that the action happened, but nothing actually happens. And everything is hard-coded to localhost. So if you want to try, you will only be available to try at your own PC. The first NFT reductor has the following description field: R13 pipe and a string. It's encoded in base64 and rot 13 rotations. It's one of the cheapest way of encoding things, and once you decode it, you will see the following let's see the following format in most of the NFTs. The IP address for the C2 server, code, which are actually Unix commands, ANSI Unix commands, whoami, ID, and actions, which are the proprietary commands for the malware, ID and exfil. An interesting thing is that everything that I have encoded wasn't detected by CyberChef, even when running on depth 10, because including that 4 characters at the start, R13 and pipe, just made CyberChef confused, so he wasn't able to decode it. Then, the next one will try to abuse another common field in base64. It will have the same C2 server, it will have whoami, ID, and hostname as commands, and will try to do the identification, the exfiltration, shell, encrypt, and wipe, which are actually fake. We will see how it works, and I will show a short demo. First, we will try to request the NFTs from a specific account, in this case, my account. If you see the identifiers, they are listed with the latest one first, because it is assumed to have the latest instructions, the updated instructions. If you have a C2 and it fails or something happens, you will send an update. It should be read first. Then we get the information. It will try to get the following data: the description to see if it fits the format of a malicious string, and it will try to get where it is actually deployed on IPFS, where it is decentralized. In this case, it had found the image and the metadata on IPFS. And now you may tell me, okay, I can just raise a complaint against IPFS.io and take down that NFT. And that's not how it works. IPFS.io is just one of the many hundreds of IPFS readers. They just read IPFS nodes and show them to you. IPFS.io does not host this information and has no saying in how to delete or how to serve this information. So you don't have a way to ask for a deletion forcefully, at least. Then we decode what the base64 says, or rot 13 says, and it says this is the action plan. It's like the Terraform action plan, if you have ever used it. It will say this is what will happen if you run this, but doesn't run it on the first try. We will use localhost as the exfiltration. We will run whoami, ID, and hostname. We will try to identify the host, to exfiltrate data, and to open a reverse shell, encrypt data, and wipe the backups. Once we run it, this actually doesn't take too long. It will say, okay, we'll run the custom code, whoami, Mauro, Eldritch, the ID, all the groups I belong to, the hostname, and we'll attempt to exfiltrate it. If it receives a correct response, code 200, it will then start with the rest of the cycle. Because if you start with the cycle without having contacted the C2 server, you might be left, stranded. And this is what you will get on the exfiltration side. Just the basic information, and then everything will be downloaded to a file, to a local file. Let's see a short demo on how it works. It won't take too long to run, actually. Once again, we will just query the account first. As you see, the API responds super fast. We will decode the number 1, which is golden locker. Then we will run it. If you see, it says encoding base64 detected and attempting to decode description. Description is one of the most accessible fields. Anyone can see it. If you browse my OpenSea account, you will obviously say, hey, this looks fishy. This looks bad. It has a description field that it's absolutely wrong. And that's fine, actually. So, sorry. Here we go. As I say, using name or description is a super lower hanging fruit. Anyone can just do it. So I tried to see if there was more ways to try to abuse what OpenSea is not actually cleaning. So I created this dummy NFT, which only had an steganographic message. For those of you that do not know, steganography is the technique or art of hiding messages inside a picture without modifying the picture in a super visible way. The most common one, the one that you will see at CTF, at steganographic courses, at wherever, it's LSB or least significant bit. And it's located at this exact point. It doesn't quite matter now, but it's this exact point. Once you submit this picture to OpenSea, they will parse it. They will just, beautify it, change things, and the message is gone. So at first I thought, well, I cannot exploit this. But then I remembered that the original file is also decentralized on IPFS and accessible. So even if you just delete the picture, I still have the original file submitted. So I did the following test. I minted the NFT. I asked it for the IPFS URLs. That's the node, -3, because this is number 3. Sorry. And then you can see here, this is the browser of IPFS. You have that picture. And when I download that picture, I run setsteg, which is a third-party tool I'm not affiliated with. I look out for the exact place where I have placed this steganographic message, and it says Mauro Eldritch was here. So I understood that it works. I can use it to actually host a better string than just, a graffiti. So I began with this latest one, which also includes 2 other attack vectors. First, the traits. Traits are like a special field for NFTs. Say, I don't know, if you mean something like Pokemons, it will say the type. The trait is type, and the value may be fire, water, wind, whatever. And EXIF metadata, which are, I think most of you already know, EXIF are fields that explain certain properties of the picture, of the media, what camera did you use, who's the owner, so on. The color profile and all those kind of super technical things. Then I use this base64 string for all of them 3, for the trait, the EXIF metadata, and the steganographic message, which means IP address, our C2 server, and code, who am I? Nothing else, because we already have tested the others. Now there are 2 things to have in mind. The trait name is Mira. Bear this in mind because there's some funny behavior with this. The EXIF field is profile copyright, because you cannot just write anything arbitrary to any EXIF field. There are a few fields that allow you to put whatever you want. One of them is profile copyright. You can, for example, put anything you want in device manufacturer, because most of the time the tools will complain. So while browsing the JSON response of the API, I found that the trait is easily available just on the first API call. You can see it at the bottom. Also, we have the IPFS URLs. Now, you might say, okay, but this is not decentralized, and you're right. This is just the API call. When you browse the metadata IPFS URL, you get this. Name, initial access marker, description, welcome to the Goldilocks star market, and then, way below, trait type, Mira, value, and the base64 encoded string. So this is actually decentralized on that IPFS node. -4, because this is NFT number 4. So this is actually, we can use this actually. So I browsed the decentralized image and say, okay, I want to see that this is actually working. You have the hash in case you want to check. EXIF tool, read profile copyright field. It says B64, blah, blah, blah. Then I run setsteg at the specific place that we already hide in the messages, and it says B64, blah, blah, blah. In case you want to test any third-party tools I do not own, like Steganography Online, it still has the message. Metadata to go still has the message. I'm not the owner of any of those tools. And then a short demo on this. You might have already seen how it works, but here we have something slightly different. Remember that this NFT doesn't have a malicious description. So when trying to check for it, it will say, I can't find a malicious description. It's not compatible. It will go, let me just pause here, sorry. At first, it will just, it has a new feature. It will start searching for the EXIF, tainted EXIF, and tainted steganography. But once we try to run it, sorry, I'm having such a bad time with this today. Let's go again. This is what we have. And once we run it, the malware will start searching from the lowest hanging fruits, the easiest one, like description and name fields, and then move on to the hardest one, or the ones that take more time to process, which are the traits, which need to be queried also on IPFS, then the EXIF, which needs you to download, needs the malware to download the picture and check for the EXIF, and then the stegano, which takes some time due to how setsteg implements the checks. So it will be placed like on last priority. Then we execute it. Let me pause on the exact time here. And here we have what I was saying just before. Warning, description does not contain a compatible payload, so I'm going to check trait. Then it found a malicious trait and does not have to check for EXIF metadata or for the stegano, which takes actually like 5 to 15 seconds depending on how setsteg works. But there's something that you can always expect at any crypto engagement you have, an experiment, and research, anything you do, you will have these guys behind you if you are on the crypto space. Obviously, I'm talking about scammers. As soon as I minted the last NFT, I got all my socials flooded with solicitors who wanted to buy my golden retriever for lots of Ethereum, but it's not for sale. And then I was thinking, wow, these guys are actually pretty good because they look it up, my name at OpenSea. I do not trade NFTs. I'm not on the NFTs zine. I don't care about that. I just did this for fun. And they were trying to, yeah, I'm paying 15 ETH for your dog. Come on, man. My dog showers one time a month. It's not worth 15 ETH. But well, they wanted it. And obviously these were scams. And I say, well, these guys are actually pretty good. As I was saying that, today we are at April 26th. I disclosed this 6 months ago only to OpenSea, no one else. Then, after not receiving some response from their side, I started writing an article for an eSigned, and no one aside the eSigned, myself and OpenSea, knew about this. Remember, today is April 26th. On April 19, I just saw this thing, this atrocious thing. Someone was just sending a drainer ad. You know, drainer is a malicious contract that when you sign it, will just swipe every crypto asset you have. NFTs, crypto coins, whatever you have. Once you sign, it's the crypto devil's pact. You will lose everything. They will just swipe everything and run. And then I saw, yeah, another drainer. I'm used to just research drainers, but look below. Look on the bottom left. The link goes to IPFS.io. Somebody else is already using IPFS.io to distribute malware. So this cannot be easily taken down. Somebody else on the other end of the world or close to my house, will never know, had the same idea as me or stole my research, one of two. Any of those two alternatives is pretty bad because we cannot just take this down easily. It's not as easy as you might have guessed.
So it's quite concerning for me to see that IPFS can be exploited, and actually there's no, let's say, active effort to take this down. This has been on from 19 April. Neither X or Twitter or nobody at IPFS could take this down. So this drainer is using this technique to spread themselves. So this is almost everything. It's time to say goodbye, and I hope that you have enjoyed the experiment. My conclusions here are that there are some things that the world needs, and there are some other things that the world doesn't need. Things that we do not need, definitely. We don't need more Web3 shenanigans, and we don't need new novel attack vectors, for the love of God, especially now with the summer incoming. And things that I think that we need to see more often is more public like you. You have been awesome with me today, so thank you for coming to my talk. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much for this talk. I have, in fact, two questions. So the first question is, you said that you'll give us some insight for a good NFT or something at the end. So waiting for that. The second question is, you also mentioned the attack on Binance, where people use the Binance as a server for what their malicious software should do. And in the end, what happened was that Binance, they stopped it at the proxy. So because people usually don't interact directly with the Binance blockchain, they just use the proxy, and then the proxy can just stop this thing, and it should work. Now, you obviously tried OpenSea, and it seems they're not interested in stopping this kind of things, but they could. And same thing, IPFS.io, it's also kind of a proxy to the IPFS system, so they could also stop it if they wanted to. How hard would it be to write a tool that actually interacts with IPFS directly without going through any of the proxies? Would that be very hard?
Well, actually, it will have certain difficulty, but if you see, there are lots of already existing in place IPFS browsers. Some of them are slower, some of them tend to fail, but some of them are pretty good. So I do not discard that we may be able to write something to just look out for IPFS directly without using OpenSea's API. I thought of those kind of access, but I didn't want to give away an easy attack vector from somebody who might have bad intentions. That's why I used OpenSea at first. At least when I started 6 months ago, OpenSea had a super difficult way of requesting API. You even had to pay a signet message to the developers, explain. So the first thing that came to my mind was, yes, maybe I can use Arweave or on-chain NFTs, but it will be to give away an easy way for bad people to actually start using it. So I went with IPFS. And the same question that you have came to my mind. Maybe I should write a wrapper myself. And then I say, no, I prefer to rely on someone else so that somebody else has a saying like, okay, I'm not giving service to you. Or I'm blocking this node. If you request this node, I will send you a 404 message. But yeah, I actually came to my mind. Oh yeah, this is the best NFT. This goes to the moon. Golden Locker. Thank you for the question. And no, OpenSea didn't pay a single dime. They were like, yeah, this is really creative. I really enjoyed reading it. I really support you writing an article about this, but it's out of scope. So walk away. Okay, no more questions? Well, thank you.